Hi, I'm here. This is my mom and this is a story she told me. One day when I was younger, I came home from school to find a package in the mail. It wasn't addressed to me, but it was addressed to my family. So I asked my dad if he knew what it was and he said no, he told me to open it up since it was addressed to the family and it didn't seem like anything important. But as soon as I opened the package, I realized it wasn't just something random that was sent to us. It was something very personal. Inside the package was a diary, and as soon as I saw it, I knew whose it was. The diary had a lock on it and I remember thinking, why would they send me a locked diary? I tried to look around to see if there was a key included or maybe an obvious place where the key might be, but there wasn't. I remember getting frustrated and just wanting to rip the diary apart to see what was inside, but instead, I went and asked my dad if he knew the combination. He looked at the diary, thought for a second and said, "It's your birthday, isn't it?" Then he started speaking in this really weird code. The month you were born, the day you were born, the year you were born. I was confused. Did he think I was going to be born again one day and use the same birth date? I told him that wasn't my birth date and he said, "No, silly, that's your sister's birth date." I ran to my room upset because now I had to wait until her birthday to find out what was in the diary, but as soon as I got to my room and shut the door, I started to cry. Why wouldn't they let me open this diary? It felt like they didn't trust me. I ended up having to wait a couple months because my sister was born prematurely. When we finally got to open the diary, both my sister and I were excited. I think we both hoped that it was going to have some sort of magical power or something. We entered in the numbers and opened it up to the first page. Inside the front cover, there was a message written in pencil. To whoever finds this, if you're watching this from the future, please don't tell anyone about the diary. And even if you do tell someone, they won't believe you anyway. All the best, Alice. We both laughed because we knew who Alice was. She was our mom's best friend from high school. We wondered if she was the one who sent the diary, but we never found out. We flipped through the diary, which had hundreds of pages and was filled with all sorts of writing and drawings. My mom passed away when I was 14 years old, so I had no idea how much of this diary she wrote before she passed away. What I did know is that this diary was filled with years and years worth of thoughts. And I mean years. I think she started writing in this thing when she was 8, and I know for a fact she wrote in this diary all throughout college and med school. The entire time I was reading this diary, I felt closer to my mom. I remember laughing out loud at some of the things she wrote. She was so sarcastic and witty. I remember thinking, how did I not know that you were so funny? There were also pages and pages of medical facts that she wrote down. She wanted to become a doctor, and even though she became a stay-at-home mom, she loved learning about medicine. There were also pages of her thoughts about boys. She wrote about her crushes and how she felt about them. On one of the pages, she listed off the qualities of her dream guy, and on the next page, she drew a picture of him. Next to it, she wrote his name and the date that they met, and below that, she wrote what she admired about him. She had done this for every guy that she liked. I remember feeling shocked when I read what she wrote about Dad. She described him as being intelligent, hardworking, caring, handsome, and kind. Below that, she had drawn him and labeled different parts of his body, saying things like strong jawline, nice eyes, and great hair. I couldn't help but smile while reading these entries because she wrote about Dad like it was Romeo and Juliet or something. In fact, she wrote a whole story about how they met. According to her diary, they were at a mutual friend's party and she had immediately fallen in love with him. She had written down everything she remembered about that night, including what they talked about and what they drank. I remember thinking, it's no wonder you fell in love with him. He's a legend. To this day, I still don't know how you could not fall in love with him. As I continued reading, I found more drawings. They were pictures of friends, family members, and even celebrities. One of the pages was titled People I Find Attractive, and on it she had drawn and labeled different people she considered attractive. I remember thinking, well, this is awkward. I don't want to know who you think is attractive, but I kept reading anyway. She drew some of our relatives and I recognized most of them, but there was one person she had drawn that I didn't recognize. She had drawn a man and labeled him Grandpa. Wait, what? My grandpa passed away before I was born, but this drawing was from 1997. How could she have drawn him if she wasn't born yet? Confused, I flipped through the pages, trying to find where she had written about him. I finally found it on a completely random page. She had written down a memory that she must have heard from my grandma. She wrote, when Grandma was dating Grandpa, he surprised her by bringing her flowers to her school. She was so happy because she loved sunflowers and he picked them even though they were in season. They ended up together for 43 years. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a diary, it was a journal. She didn't write down memories that happened after she was born. She wrote down memories that happened before she was born, memories that she probably heard from my grandma. This made me wonder, are there other things about my family that I don't know? Things that I should know? I continued reading, fascinated by what else I could learn about my family history. As I read, I noticed that the handwriting changed. It was the same exact diary. It had the same cover and everything. But the handwriting was different, and then I saw the answer. At the beginning of the diary, my mom had written in pencil, "If you're reading this, then I'm gone." but I loved you always. Below that, she had written my sister's name and left the rest of the pages blank, and at the end of the diary, she had written, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, but I loved you always. Below that, she had written my name and left the rest of the pages blank. So this wasn't just her diary, it was both mine and my sister's diary. I still remember the shock I felt when I read those words. I didn't know she had written a message for me until I finished the whole diary. I only read the parts that were meant for me. I had no idea what she wrote about before I was born. I didn't know how much of her life she documented in this diary. It took me years to get through the whole thing, and until this day, I still haven't finished it. I still haven't gotten to the parts that were meant for my sister. I don't know if I'll ever get through them. The last entry I read was from 2 days before she passed away, and as I read her final words, I couldn't help but laugh because even though she was going through the hardest time in her life, she was still making jokes. Thank you for watching.